across the board, before we get started, if anybody doesn't have anything to take notes on, or if you want to know what the resources are that we're drawing from, if you go to the Strong on Health website, there is a blog post called Listen to Your Gut. Ironically, since this is our first talk that we are periscoping, this is actually the first blog post we ever wrote about gut health, right? So a lot of the resources are going to be on there. Okay? All right, so we're going to answer 3 questions in this talk. Number 1, why is our gut health important? Number 2, what have we done to damage our gut health? And number 3, what can we do to repair it? All right, so those are going to be basically the 3 things that we're going to discuss it tonight. All right, so usually I'm going to show a video, but first let's just talk about why our gut health is so important. Typically, if we're working with someone nutritionally and we want to get them healthy, they have to be able to digest the nutrition, right? Because that's the foundation of everything that we're doing, is trying to give them good, solid nutrition. And if their gut isn't working right, or if it's not healthy, they're going to have a compromised ability to absorb nutrition overall. Okay, so this is why the people are linking so many things to what we call gut health, or we can call it our microbiome. Right? We have somewhere between 100 to 120 trillion living organisms in and on our body. Somewhere about 3 to 4 pounds of it actually in our digestive tract. So there's a lot going on, and one of the purposes of me having this talk over and over again is just to help people kind of really get a concept of just how complex that is. And one of the ways I like to do that is I like to ask everybody who wants $400,000.
Did I do? Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else want $400,000?
No.
Okay.
Don't be bashful.
What I want you to think about is this is your inheritance, right? So when you came into this world, somebody just said, here's your $400,000, and think about all the things that you can do over the course of your life with that $400,000, right? You want your inheritance, don't you? Okay. And if you don't, if you only get $200,000, you can only do half the things that the person next to you with the $400,000 can do. Come on, let's see. Have $400,000. Please. All right. Welcome. Okay, so we'll get into what you're going to do with that money in just a little bit. But first of all, if you'll find on the website, there's a lot of things that our gut health is very much attached to. Digestion and metabolism of many vitamins, like we talked about. What's the point in giving somebody more vitamins if they can't actually metabolize or utilize them? Allergic reactions are going to be tied to that. Our ability to manage anxiety and depression, and ultimately weight loss too. Right? We put that up there because these health talks that we do are one of the things that we're trying to do is look at things that are outside the normal spectrum of diet and exercise that are contributing to our nationwide weight problem. Right? We all have a little bit of a problem overall with weight. So gut health is one of those things that I'm finding is going to be very much attached to that as well. And so there are several studies that we're going to look at that are going to incorporate into that. So I'm going to play a little video, and I want to see what you guys' reactions are to the video once we get back into that. Give me 1 second. It's only 3 minutes, so it'll be brief. If you've seen it before, it's worth watching again. Those of you who are not here, it's a PBS Digital Studio, and we'll have that as a link for you guys if you want to send in an email to watch it. And it's loading.
We humans are obsessed with cleanliness. We wear masks in public when we feel cold coming on, we cover ourselves in scented soaps, and we are crazy about our hand sanitizer. No matter how much we steam, sterilize, or scrub ourselves, we're still outnumbered by our inner ecosystem. Meet your microbiome. The average adult human is made up of about 10 trillion cells, but how many bacteria do you think you carry? A billion? A trillion? How about 100 trillion microbes on our skin, hair, mouth, and inside of our intestines? You and I and everyone on Earth is mainly microbe, but we're not born that way. We start having a sterile wound and we get our first dose of bacteria before we're even done being born. As we pass through the vaginal cavity, we ingest a tiny bit of this guy. It lives in our intestines, where it'll join about 600 other species that come along with our mother's breast milk. Their job? To break down sugars in that milk that we couldn't digest on our own. As we cuddle and kiss and play in the dirt, eventually over 1,000 species of bacteria will call our guts home. Early on, our little friends start fighting off bad bacteria and help teach our immune system the difference between good and bad. Mice without a microbiome are much sicker as adults, and children who take too many antibiotics, which kill good bacteria along with bad, can be more likely to get asthma and intestinal diseases later in life. And these bacteria don't just protect us, they help feed us. Vitamins like B3, B6, B12, and K are all produced by our microbial friends and then taken up by our bodies. Our microbiome goes way beyond our guts. Antony van Leeuwenhoek became the first person to ever lay eyes on our little friends in 1683 when he scraped his teeth and placed it under a microscope. Even after we brush our teeth, hundreds of species live in our mouths fighting disease and tooth decay. And no two people have exactly the same mouth bacteria. You share your mix with everyone you kiss. We used to think that sterile lungs were healthy, but there's bacteria there too, helping prevent asthma and lung infections. We've even found them in ears and arteries and manufacturing antibiotics in our noses. And then there's our largest organ, the skin. About 1 trillion bacteria live in our hair follicles and epidermis. Some are playing defense, making our skin slightly acidic or producing chemicals to keep fungi from setting up shop. Some skin bacteria prefer to live in warm, dark places on the body, munching on skin oils and sweat and producing chemicals that give us our particular aroma. There's a lot of weird microbiome science that we don't understand. Regardless of your age, diet, gender, or where you're from, you probably have just one of 3 intestinal ecosystems. Like blood types, we all share only a handful of gut microbiome types across all people. Have you heard of bacterial mind control? The vagus nerve serves as a sort of direct phone line from your gut to your brain, and mice that have certain friendly bacteria in their intestines are calmer and less anxious than those who don't. Here's another weird microbe mystery. If you looked at all the bacteria on your right hand, only about 1/5 of them would also be on your left hand, even if you did this. All in all, we carry about 20,000 or so human genes and 3 million or so bacterial genes. In a sense, we're 1% human and 99% bacterial. Sure, some bacteria are bad, but most of them are just happy to call us home and happy to help us stay healthy. If we don't start treating our microbiome like the friends they are, they might rise up against us.
All right, so let's answer that first question then. Why is the microbiome so important? Why is it so important? Digesting vitamins, right? What were some of the vitamins that he had mentioned in the video? That they're important for? The B vitamins, right? B3, B6, B12. Does anybody hear people getting B12 shots because they don't have enough B12 and it gives them energy? What was another one? Okay. Vitamin K. Right, so just digestion alone, right? Really important to take a look at that. What were some other reasons why it's important? Anybody?
You think I would know all this?
That's okay, they help strengthen your immune system, don't they?
Yes.
We have a lot of people who are getting sick. We have a lot of people who are taking antibiotics, right? In fact, one of the articles that we linked to in that blog post is showing that they're questioning whether or not the antibiotic use has gotten so out of hand that it's starting to impact this all in a very negative way. So immune function is another reason. What else?
Asthma keeps you from getting asthma.
Asthma, you mentioned that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's so many things that we're just starting to understand, right? And slowly we're getting there. One of the main things that caught my attention was a few years ago they were talking about doing fecal implants for people. Right? There's something called C. difficile. I actually posted this on our Facebook feed, a couple of articles about it, because people were getting so sick that the only thing that they could do to really help remedy this was take a healthy person's feces and place it in the colon of this person. Right? That's the only thing that they were finding that was actually working at this point. In my mind, I say, well, there's got to be something else we can do before we get to the point where we literally have to do that, right? And so that's, I think, an important reason to make sure that we're keeping our gut flora healthy. Because C. difficile people were getting very sick and obviously dying from this, right? And there are ways to, make sure that you're supporting your gut health around that. So, $400,000 I gave you all just to help you kind of wrap your head around just how complex this is. Think about what you could do with $400,000, right? You could do an awful lot. Now, how many bugs did he say live in us? How many microbes?
Something trillion.
100 to 120 trillion, right? So, can you even imagine what you do with 400,000? How about $400 million, right? Now multiply that by 3, and now you're getting close to 100 and 120 trillion dollars. So the numbers are so high that we can't even wrap our heads around it, right? So we really have to start thinking about this in a different way. And just like when we talk about our fats at Fat Talk, people think that fats were bad, right? They've gotten this bad rep. Same thing with microbes, right? We thought all germs are bad, all germs are killing us. And we're starting to understand that there's actually a place for them on and in our bodies. Really important. So if you take your money and pull it apart and start to understand, let's get into some of the ways that we've damaged this. And another analogy I want you to kind of think about when we're looking at this is a rainforest, right? It's so complex. There's so many different species, so many different organisms living in a rainforest that make it an actual rainforest, that we're starting to look at our microbiome in the same light because it's so diverse. We've probably identified close to 1,000 different species so far, but who knows how many more that we're going to get into. And he's talking about the complexity of it when you put your hands together like this, right? You still got only 1/5 being the same on both hands. It's really complex. And we start looking at all kinds of different things in a different light. We look at rashes, right? Could there be a factor to that the microbiome is disrupted in that area of your skin because there's so much going on at such a small level? Again, 100 to 120 trillion living organisms. If that gets out of balance, we've got a problem, right? If we've got more bad ones than good ones, then we're going to have all kinds of problems that we can't really understand. So there's multiple things. So again, take it from the video, right from the get-go, right out of the gate. What's one of the things that could impact whether or not you got your full $400,000 inheritance or 120 trillion?
Were vaginally delivered and breastfed.
Right, right. If you're vaginally delivered, there's a great article that we linked to in that blog post about cesarean born and their connection to allergies and all kinds of things. So it's a really interesting article for you guys to look at. So if you were born cesarean versus natural birth, you're going to want to take at least $10,000 out of that and put that into a stack to the side. Okay. We might be able to reclaim them, but put that off to the side for now. Okay. So what did he say after that happens? What did you say?
Oh, breastfed.
Breastfed, right? So we had this crazy idea for decades that bottle fed was the way to go, right? We figured, oh, everybody should just be bottle fed. And what did he say in the video about what happens during that? How many different species? Over 600, right? 600 different species that we're looking at that weren't getting passed to them. So if you didn't get the inheritance passed on to you directly from your mother from breastfeeding, I'm going to say you're going to take at least $50,000 to $100,000 and put that in that stack to your right. Okay? So your inheritance is diminishing already. And so the amount of things that you can do with that money is diminishing, right? The ability to make vitamin B3, B6, B12, all of those things. Yes, I know. Right? Just put it off to the side. You might be able to get some of it back. Okay? All right, so, and also, let's take a second and think about that. There's also, and now this is just speculative on my part, but we look at the amount of people in our country who have a problem digesting milk products, right? There might be some correlation between those microbes that help with such digestion and not getting them, right, in that passage. In fact, he even said that that these are the microbes that when you're passing through the vaginal canal and doing that help with milk sugar and milk protein digestion, right? So maybe it's more about that and less about just everybody all of a sudden can't digest milk products, right? Okay, so what about after that? What happens to kids who are sick when they're young?
They get antibiotics.
They get antibiotics. Okay. And here's the thing about antibiotics. Let's take a look at that rainforest idea again, right? So all of a sudden we're kind of having a problem. We've got an infestation of bugs. So the antibiotic does what? It goes in and it indiscriminately just kills off everything. So we basically deforested a portion of that forest, that rainforest. So every time you do that, we're finding now in medical news that one round of antibiotics takes a whole year for your microbiome to get back to normal, without, of course, assistance in some way or another. So for every round of antibiotics that you've had over the course of your life, I'm going to say you're going to need to slide $5,000 over to that other pile.
There you go. I don't know. They're so easily distributed. Anytime you're sick, here, antibiotics, you know.
Right, so now again, look at your body's ability to handle things. Look at your body's ability to handle dairy, to be able to make vitamin B. And there were so many other things that he's saying connected to this, and they all kind of play into each other when we're talking about, he said, with mind control, right? They're actually calling them psychobiotics. There's a lot to do with your body's ability to make neurotransmitters, dopamine, and the like, so that you can be happy. He talked about how one mouse would be calm, and the other one would be angry, and they'd swap personalities. UCLA did a really interesting study on that. So it really impacts your ability to stay calm and be happy as well, obviously. Yes?
So isn't like a ton of your serotonin like line your gut?
A lot of that is the serotonin production happens in the gut, right? So that's a big part of it. Of course, you want to keep that as healthy as possible. And the more you start to understand so many different things that people are struggling with, oftentimes if you go back to whether or not their gut is healthy, you're going to find, again, that would probably make the most sense to be the place to start, right? That would be the best place to do that. Now, birth control, specifically for women, is also decimating to your gut flora. Dr. Natasha Campbell-McBride wrote an interesting book called Gut and Psychology Syndrome. She has tons of lectures online that explain this. But you'll find, again, that will reduce it. So if you're a woman and you took birth control, I'd say for every year you did, you might want to take about another $5,000 and slide it over to that pile that you're not going to be able to spend. Right? Now, just a side note to that, it also depletes zinc in the body. And if you were here for our thyroid talk, you'll find there's a really important need for zinc in your body, actually 300 important needs for it. So that's another thing to look at, is whether or not that's impacted your zinc levels, going back to last week. Okay, what else impacts our gut flora negatively? Stress, okay? Anybody been overly stressed for a while? Okay, so every year that you've had an extremely stressful event, let's slide another 5,000 into that pile. What about processed foods and sugars? Do you think they positively impact our microbiome, or they negatively impact our microbiome? Probably negative, right? So every year that you ate nothing but frosted flakes for breakfast, you might want to slide another 5,000 into that pile. Okay, so you're starting to get the picture, right? That your ability to do so many things within your body, and your body's reaction to so many things, is greatly impacted. Now you can maybe go to the grocery store, right, and maybe rent a one-bedroom apartment somewhere, as opposed to having your own car. You know what I'm saying? The amount that you can do with that amount of money versus what you could do. And in your body, again, let's multiply that by a factor of 100, and well beyond 100, because it's so much more complex than that when we're looking at it. Okay, so now we kind of understand what we've done to destroy it. Did I miss anything?
Smoking.
Smoking, potentially, yeah. It adds another stress to your body. I don't know about any direct correlation to it, but I could imagine that doesn't help in some way, especially on your skin. You're probably hurting the microbiome that lives there.
Not thyroid medicine.
Medications can probably add another stressor to it. I'm not aware, I don't think I cite any direct research on that in the blog post, but I could look into that for you and see if there is any studies on that, interestingly. Did you say there was something else we missed? No. All right, so that's the bad news, how we damaged it. So now, let's give you an opportunity to slide that money back into the other pile.
So they're all fixable. Like you said, it took a year for the antibiotics, so
right.
it is.
Well, your body's going to be very forgiving to a degree, but you've got to take care of it. And you've got to also take care of this microbiome that's going on in your body. So what are some of the things that we can do to help it? And again, this is going to be listed on the website. You're going to be able to see it. If I can get to it down there. Oops, other way. We actually broke it down into good, better, best down here for you, just for you at home so you don't have to take the notes. But good is start eating a whole foods diet, rich in fiber. One of the problems in America especially is that fiber is really, really low. Everything's been processed, all the fiber's been removed out of our foods, and this obviously impacts what's going on in our microbiome too. So make sure to include plants with various forms of fiber such as beans, beets, nuts, and avocados, right? If you can start to get a daily portion of those, it's going to be very helpful. Try adding fermented foods like real yogurt, kimchi, sauerkraut, and kombucha. That's why we brought kombucha for everybody to try tonight. A bunch of different flavors. Try it out. Now, warning, there's a little bit of sugar in there, right? You know how I feel about sugar. But I still think that there's benefits to drinking kombucha even with a little bit of sugar in there. Keep garlic in the mix. I think garlic is one of the most important things that you could keep at least on a weekly basis into your diet, if not daily. It's very helpful in two ways. Not only does it help fight off the opportunistic bugs, but it actually helps feed and support the good ones. One of our, yes?
Doesn't matter if it's raw or cooked or, you know.
Raw is always better. Yeah, and in fact, if you want a little more information on this, one of our clients went off to become a nutritionist after working with us, and she created a whole, what would you call this, an infographic on garlic, okay? And you can find this at mywholefoodhabit.com, thanks to Megan Mansfield. So this is something to look into, and we'll give you guys a link to that as well, so you can learn a little more about garlic. All right, so garlic, and of course, avoiding fast foods, processed foods, sodas of all kinds. Right? It just kind of makes sense, right? What we're trying to do is rebuild this very complex rainforest, and we want to get the trees in first, right, and bring in all the other animals. But if we've got somebody going through and lighting fires to those trees while we're trying to plant them, they're not going to grow very well. And that's basically what we're doing if we're eating fast foods and processed foods and excess sugar and sodas, okay? So that's where I would start. That's one of the things. So if you're doing some of those things, give yourself $50,000 back, right? Give yourself back $10,000 for every year that you've eaten like that, right? So I'm going to say your body's not forgiving. It's going to give you back twice as much as you've taken away. Now, better. One of the major questions I get all the time is, should I be taking a probiotic, right? And I think at this point, it's probably wise to find a good probiotic, and that's something that you're going to want to get into a little bit more to find what probiotics are more appropriate for you. There's a lot of them out there on the market, so I caution you not to just run out and grab the very first one. And more importantly, the number of them isn't quite as important as the quality. And this is something I always want to talk about on a side note, individually with people, is that just taking 50 billion life forms doesn't mean that it's actually going to set up shop in that environment. If you have what they call dysbiosis, too many bad guys, not enough good guys, then the environment's changed slightly. And the pH in your colon is supposed to be slightly acidic, about 6.8. You've heard of acidophilus, right? So acid-loving is basically what we're talking about there. So the good guys like it a little acid. The bad guys like it a little alkaline. If it's alkaline and we're dumping a bunch of acid-loving guys down there, are they going to do very well in that environment? Not really, right? It's like taking people who live in a tropical climate and have them go up into the Arctic. They're not going to survive very well. So we want to make sure that the environment is supportive of that. And there are certain things you can do, and that's why some of those fermented foods are really important. And there are other ways that you can achieve that as well, and we can talk about that individually just to figure out where you're at with that. But finding a good probiotic is going to be important to make sure that you're getting your levels back up to where they're supposed to be. And avoid overuse of antibiotics and prescription medications, because yeah, that can be something that can affect that. And ultimately, the best would to actually do what we call a weed, seed, and feed protocol. If you're someone who really knows that you've done so much damage, after our countdown you only had $5,000 left in your account, that might be something that you want to talk to us about. And maybe you're doing that. So if you've been doing a probiotic, if you found a good probiotic, you've been taking it pretty regularly, then again, take another $50,000 for every year that you've been doing that and put it back. But now we know it takes a little bit longer and it's very complex to do that. So all this information, like I said, is on here. There's some great links to resources if you have any more questions about it. But are we starting to kind of grasp the concept of how complex it is? Another thought that I just want to point at the end when we're talking about antibiotics is I used to tell people that if you're taking antibiotics, don't take a probiotic, right? Because you're just taking something and then you're just killing it, right, with the same thing. But I've come to learn, and there's some articles up here that I could cite that show that actually 2 hours after taking the antibiotic is the time to take a probiotic, because you've done the job and you want to get it in there as soon as possible. I used to say, well, immediately when you're done with it, the last day of the course, but actually taking it during it can be very helpful. And there are companies out there that have been way ahead of the curve on this. There's a company that's been doing 20 years of clinical research on restoring the gut flora during antibiotic use. And so there's a lot of good information out there, but we just want to make sure we're guiding to what we've kind of sifted through to figure out what's going to be the most beneficial to you. Any questions? I knew it.
Yeah. Whenever you're going on a probiotic or you're introducing like a lot of, I guess, bacteria-rich foods, aren't you supposed to do it kind of like gradually? If you have or gut health, like that's what you're saying.
Yeah, it depends on the person. Again, every person's going to be individual when it comes to this, because this is why I want you to really grasp the complexity of it. Right? When we're talking about hundreds of trillions of organisms, it's really hard for us to understand where are you on that spectrum of the damage versus not. And so some people, yeah, if you take too much probiotics, it can actually cause a problem, right? It can cause digestive stress and things can just move right through your body. And that can be a problem. And that's just that's information for you to know where you're at with that. But it could also be something, to do with the lack of fiber that you're getting along with that, or that the environment hasn't been set up right either. So yes, would be my answer.
Yes. Just one word. Answer. But well, so if you did have good gut health, then would it be like? Is there like a threshold, like where it's like too much probiotics then?
If you have good gut health, I mean taking a probiotic?
Like taking a lot of probiotics.
Yeah, I mean, too much of anything's a bad thing, right? And your body takes time to do things. And things don't happen overnight like we're expecting them. And that's kind of one of the things that have gotten off the path is we're used to taking some type of pharmaceutical that we see the immediate result.
Yeah.
And that doesn't necessarily always apply to when the body's healing, right? So things are going to take time over time. And that's why I said they've even found that it takes a whole year just for your body to replace it normally, right? So the normal course of events would be that, yes, it takes a little time. You can't just plant a bunch of trees and keep throwing more trees into a rainforest and expecting it to be a full rainforest. You can lay the foundations and you can bring it in normal amounts, but you can't just overload the soil, right? There's only so much soil there for it to take. So yeah, you're going to have to find the right amount when you're going to that. So bottom line is overall, when we're looking at health, and we're looking at, I've done everything. Why am I not getting healthy? Right? I'm still having this problem. I'm still having that problem. I've tried every medication and I've tried everything of this. If you haven't taken the time to look at what possibly could be going on in your microbiome, then I feel like you've missed a really big part of a big piece of this puzzle. Right? And every week we're trying to find a major piece to that puzzle. And quite honestly, this is one of the most important, if not the most important, as a foundation for everything else that we talk about. So I really want people to examine this and just question it and look into it, ask some questions, right? I think it's more important that I have you ask questions about this than actually I'm answering all your questions, because it's more complicated than I can even hope to communicate to you in the time that we have tonight. Any other questions?
What about sauerkraut?
What about sauerkraut?
Isn't it probiotic?
Yeah, well, it's a fermented food, right? So it's one of those things that's going to help with setting up that. And again, you can do too much of that too. And it's not appropriate for every person. Some people are going to find that they're not going to respond so well to sauerkraut. So you have to treat the individual. You can't just say across the board, everybody needs this probiotic. If you remember from that video, you talked about there's 3 different major microbiomes. And if you're taking a probiotic and it's not a part of the microbiome type that you are, is that helpful? Probably not, right? You're turning yourself into a totally different person, which might be a good thing for some people. Any other questions? So what are you guys going to do? What's one thing you're going to do tomorrow to help bring that account balance back up to your original inheritance as to what it was supposed to be?
Eat some beets.
Eat some beets. I love it, because that's going to do so many other things for you.
Yes,
Isn't it?
beets are good.
Great choice. I love it.
Probiotics.
You're going to take a probiotic. You're going to find a good probiotic, right? Okay, and you're not going to just take a probiotic. You're going to make sure that you're setting up the environment so the probiotic is going to be received. Okay, good. Good. How about you? What are you going to do?
Process.
Oh, yeah? You're going to take some
I
nutrition.
probably will actually ask you about some probiotics though.
Okay.
So how do you set up the environment? How do you know if you have a good environment that's absorbing the probiotics?
There's a few different things that you're going to, obviously you're going to listen to your body and you're going to find out different things. Bloating is one of those things that you'll find a lot of people will experience if they're getting food down there and it's just fermenting and rotting, right? And it's not working. So there's multiple things that you're going to start looking into and try to identify whether or not that's working for you. And you'll notice we have a lot of people who have a problem with what? 2 foods? Dairy and wheat, right? Or more specifically, gluten and casein, right? And those are 2 of the proteins that are causing problems. And if you're having distress with those, it's probably an indicator that your environment isn't quite right yet, right? So you're going to want to continue to work on that. I mean, there are people, there's something called celiac, so there are people who do have a genetic disposition to not be able to handle that. But there's a greater population out there that it's really hard to say that there's that many people that are affected by that without at least examining it, at least questioning it, right? And it's always worth trying to do the right thing. There's always the next right thing you can do for your gut in order to see if you are not that person who just has to live with that condition the rest of your life. It's pretty simple. Does that answer your question? Okay. Okay. Actually, I was looking for things you were going to do tomorrow. But that's fine. You can ask your question. Go ahead.
Okay, so if people develop food allergies, does that usually indicate gut health issues?
There's a lot of research that does connect a lot of allergies to what's going on in the microbiome. And so I think it stands to reason that it's worth examining that fixing that, healing that, doing everything you can to get that back online is going to make some change to what's going on with the allergies. There are other elements to it, and you're going to want to get deeper into that, and we can talk more specifically about what that might be. But I think that would be the first place that I would start. If I was having an allergy to certain foods, the first thing I would do is examine whether or not I'm digesting everything right and my microbiome's working right for me. Cool. What are you going to do tomorrow? Have some garlic. Excellent. Awesome. I love it. Pickled? Raw? Sure, why not?
Probably, yeah, well,
You can put raw in a salad dressing. That's how I would get raw. Garlic is, and it's make my own salad dressing.
Okay. The guy in the corner takes garlic and stuffs it in olives and eats them like that. That way he gets his fats and his raw.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, do it when you don't have to go to work though. Right?
Right.
You don't have to be face to face with anybody that you like.
Yeah. So what is real yogurt? I mean,
Well,
I know not Yoplait, but like Greek yogurt, that Vahe, is that
yeah, real natural yogurt. One of the things I just want to caution people against is when you look at the yogurt, there's so much sugar. Right. Yeah, and you just have to be careful. They're trying to make it more of something that's appealing to people, trying to get them to eat it, and so the sugar content goes through the roof, and you're losing a lot of the healthful benefits of it.
sugar?
Right, because at some point you're tipping the scales towards actually not helping at that point. Okay. Well, thank you all for being here tonight. If you guys have any more questions about this, we're happy to answer them one-on-one, but I hope at some point I at least got you asking some questions and trying to really kind of expand your understanding of that there's so much more going on in our bodies than we're giving it credit for. And just, take a little time to be a little more sensitive to it. Anybody still have their $400,000 intact entirely?
I got a little bit of it.
Oh, you got a little bit?
I got a little bit.
Yes.
Do you have anything can you tell me anything about bloating?
Bloating. Well, again, yeah, that's something that may indicate that you're not digesting the carbohydrates. If they're getting down to your digestive tract and they're impeded. Imagine you have 50% of the population down there that are just lazy bums. They're just living off the dark place and just loving it. And they're in the way, right? They're not doing any work. They're not helping with the digestion. So the ones that are trying to digest that can't quite get to them, right? So that's going to slow things down, and you're going to get a little bit of rotting, a little fermenting, and that's where some of that gas can come from, right? So
And will probiotics help that?
it can be something that you would apply to that, but again, I think it's more about making sure that you're creating the right environment. In that case, honestly, it would be a candidate for someone to do what we call that weed, seed, and feed. Weeding out the bad guys, seeding it, and then feeding with probiotic, right? So that would be tertiary to actually getting that environment set up right.
what does that mean, geographic locations on that?
Well, my takeaway point here is that we're all different, right? So there's no one answer that's going to apply to every person. And so, like I said, different heights, weights, emotional states, stressors, exposure to environmental toxins, and geographic locations, meaning you live here in the middle of Texas, whereas somebody who lives on the coast, right, they're going to have different things impacting their life. They're going to be breathing different air. They're going to be eating different foods. They're going to be getting more sun exposure, different sun exposure. They're going to be different pollutants in the air. There's going to be different pollens and animal plant life. So all of that's going to come to bear on you. You can't just say, oh yeah, somebody living in Manhattan and somebody living in rural Texas, treat them exactly the same all the time, right? Just because they're both human, that doesn't necessarily mean that there are other things that are going to be changing that equation. So we got to look at all of those factors. And it gets really complex when we do. But we always want to distill it down to what's the most important thing for the person that we're talking to. Okay? All right, guys.
Thank you.
All right, thank you all for coming. Next week, we're going to talk about adrenal health and stress. Okay, stress. Another thing we can remove to help our microbiome. So that's one thing you guys do next week. Let's come to the health talk and learn about stress. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.